Hello and good afternoon. I want to start with a quote from Ephesians 6, and it states, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and rulers in dark places." Now, Paul was referring, obviously he was looking at two foes. He was looking at Rome, who was persecuting the church through any means necessary. So he was looking at Rome. We wrestle not against flesh or blood, but principalities and rulers of this world. And obviously he then says principalities and darkness in the universe of this realm. So he was referring to a satanic, if you like, kingdom, a satanic power that was out to deceive the early church and obviously wage war and persecution against, the first century Christians. Well, they weren't called Christians at the time. They were called followers of the way. Okay, the term Christian was actually used as an insult. Okay, but they were called the way, or people who follow the way, the truth, meaning following Christ, because Christ regards himself to be, "I am the way, the truth." But I won't go into that. Okay. However, so Paul was familiar with political power. He was familiar with what was going on and who ruled at that time, who ruled the world, the Corinthian world, the Corinthian culture. The Corinthians were riddled with paganism and riddled with all these gods of Apollos and Isis, etc. So the Corinthians world were infested with paganism and spiritual warfare. And we are told what gifts we need, what ammunition to fight, this battle. What ammunition we need. You can't go into battle. You can't go into war and not have the necessary equipment. A lot of Christians today, they go to church and they don't even have the proper ammunition. They don't even know what wars they are fighting against, and the reason being, the pastors are busy telling them, how to work at your marriage, your relationship. In fact, if you look at Google, top motivational speakers, not preachers, motivational speakers, counselors, T.D. Jakes and Joel Osteen come number 2. Number 2, T.D. Jakes come number 1, and Joel Osteen number 2. I'm not being rude, I'm not swearing, but look on Google and you will see. They call them, not prosperity, motivational speakers. Come number 1 and number 2 on Google. Not preachers, they're not being ranked for preaching. So therefore, when you have people like that, how can you go to an army, a battle, and know what you're fighting against? They're deliberately keeping you dumb, deliberately keeping you misinformed, deliberately not telling you what ammunition you need. Why? Because, as I said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. They're all eating from the same trough of corruption, deceit, political power, of deception. So they're not going to tell you. Let's now move into this video. I know you're waiting for the juicy part. You see the picture and you got tickled. Let's now justify the theme of this thumbnail. You see, Bill Gates showed his power. He showed his power when he says, unless, I'm not going to use that word, the V word, but unless the whole world read from the same music sheet. You see, I've got some music sheet here. I've got some music, sheet here, right, which I play from. Right, I've got some music sheet here, right, and any pianist, keyboard player, when they see this, they know it's written in G major, starting with E minor, and they are reading from the same sheet. Any musician sing this, so straight away, in G major, starting with E minor, starting on the note of B. Okay, so they're reading from the same sheet in harmony, because the script is written. The script is written, so every musician can follow it and play it. But what's interesting, Bill Gates had the power. This guy has no qualifications in biology, in science, in anything. But because he's a billionaire, he had the power to threaten people that unless you are reading from the same music sheet, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Unless you're reading from the same music sheet, you can lose your job, your livelihood, your mortgage. In fact, the church was even shut down. The whole economy 2020 was shut down because we think the government who we vote for democratically, we think that they rule the world. No, people tell them. Look, I was reading a book called Confession of a Hitman. Confession, recession, you name it, depression, is all planned. It's all planned. Your pastor won't tell you this. They won't tell you. They want to keep you dumb. The government are paying your pastors to keep you dumb, so you don't think. So if you start thinking, you become revolutionary. And they don't want that. Keep you dumb and misinformed. But you don't realize being a Christian also means, in Ephesians 6, like being political, you have to know what's going around you. It was politics that put Daniel in the lion's den. It was politics that killed the early church, the early Christians, when Rome was in power. It was politics. But the pastors won't tell you that. They want to keep you dumb and stupid. Politics affects everybody's lives. And do you know something? It's politics. Those who are billionaires, who have the power to remove your very house. If you don't read from the same music sheet, they can take your job away from you, your livelihood, your mortgage, throw you out on the streets. And this is not the government's doing. These are people who run the government, the real billionaires, the ones who got power, no qualification, but they have the power to affect your life. They have the power to shut down the churches. Your pastors won't tell you this, but your pastor, he had to read from the same sheet that Bill Gates gave him if he wanted your tithes. If he wanted to sucker you for tithes, then he had to read from the same sheet. Which is why Creflo Dollar came up with his name really suits him. His name, Crafty Dollar. Dollar and Crafty, never mind Creflo, Crafty Dollar. When he came up with a Crafty app. This is during lockdown, and he came up with a Crafty app where Christians can still pay him and his private jet. Oh, you think this video's hot? There's worse to come, right? They can pay him into his criminal den. They can pay him tithes. This is how Crafty Dollar got around it. He didn't say, oh, what about Christians who are starving, because of the lockdown, they lost their jobs. He didn't care about that. All he cared about was pimping his own pocket. Reading from the same sheet given by Bill Gates. The same sheet. This world is a game. It's a con. And that's why we are told we wrestle not against flesh or blood, but principality and darkness and rulers in high places. They have the power to control your life, to give you the mark of the beast. Give you the mark of the beast. You think you think you're tough? You think you can fight against it? You'll be surprised how you'll compromise when, if you don't read from the same sheet, you can lose your job, your livelihood, your house, your living. These are the ones who have the power to do it. Do you know that, I'm sure it's Bill Gates or Rupert Murdoch, I'm sure it's Bill Gates. Bill Gates owned the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper is supposed to be socialist, working class. In other words, in England, it means chavs. Chavs, these football folks, chavs. And Bill Gates, this billionaire, this Guardian newspaper is supposed to be radical, revolutionary. Bill Gates owns it. He owns 85% of the media. And you wonder why you're not allowed to think? You realize you're not allowed to criticize what he puts across. He owns the media. He owns the church too. He owns the church. But they won't tell you that. For the time your charity status, your license is given by the Charity Commission, they own your theology. They own what you say and what you preach. And you throw your tithes at these players. You throw your tithes. Oh, guess you're angry. People don't want to think. It's too painful to think. It's too painful that your pastor won't tell you. Your charlatan won't tell you who rules the world. And the people that rule the world also rule him or her. And what they teach in their theology. If they go against the music sheet, if they go against it, the church gets shut down for hate speech. There's no freedom of speech. There's no freedom of expression. Oh, they envy our freedom. They envy our freedom. What freedom? What freedom? You can't even research anything without they get fact check, fact check. Oh, I better get out of here. I'm so steaming up. I'm so hot. But this is going to get really hot and heavy. If you don't want to think, please, you want to unsubscribe now. If you hate thinking, then please, this channel is not for you.